Hi everyone, welcome back to Tiny Kitchen Big Flavors. I'm Annette and welcome to my tiny RV kitchen. Tonight I'm going to be making braised short ribs. To braise something is to first season it and sear it off and then cook it low and slow in a small amount of liquid. So we're going to start by seasoning and searing our short ribs, and then we'll get to doing the rest. So here I have my short ribs. I'm going to start by patting them dry on both sides. That's a short rib. Wow, okay. And I'm going to season this with kosher sea salt, some pepper, probably some garlic powder and onion powder. Maybe some paprika. I'll get these seasoned, I'll be right back. First I've got to get my pan hot, and here's a trick that my mom taught me. Take a little tiny piece of paper towel, throw it in your pan. When the paper towel turns brown, your pan is ready for searing. Alrighty, that took about 5 minutes. You can see my paper is brown, so my pan is ready. I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to the bottom here. This pan is scorching hot, so got my seasoned short ribs. I'm gonna make some smoke here, if that's okay. All right, while those are searing, let me turn that fan off so you can hear me. While those are searing, we're gonna rough chop some vegetables. We're going to do a combination of onion, celery, and carrots, also known as a mirepoix, which obviously is French and means absolutely nothing. I think it's named for the chef for the Duke of Mirepoix or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, onion, celery, and carrots is standard. And we're just going to rough chop these because they'll be strained out eventually. They're just to beef up the flavor and intensity of this broth. So okay, this is perfect timing because my celery and my carrots are on their last legs, but perfect for this because, again, it's just going to all get strained out in the end. And let's check and see how these ribs are looking. Beautiful. Now that's a nice sear. You seared them on all sides. I'm going to get these ribs out of the pan so I can get my mirepoix in there. And saute this off for a few minutes. You can see that my onions are starting to get a little translucent, so we're ready to add some more ingredients. We're going to start with some tomato paste, probably about a tablespoon of tomato paste. All right, I'm going to add some Better Than Bouillon beef concentrate to really amp up that beef flavor in there. Get that stirred around. And now we're going to put our ribs back in. Now we want to add our braising liquids. Most people use red wine, like a Burgundy maybe. I don't drink wine, so I don't cook with wine. I'm using this red cooking wine. I'm going to use about 2 cups of that. I think I want to cook that on on the stove for a minute to let that red wine kind of cook down and concentrate for a minute, and then we'll add our beef stock and get this in the oven to braise. Okay, that cooked for about 15 minutes and it reduced by about half. I just used what I had left in the bottle, which was about 2 cups, but typically you'll want to use about 2 cups of the red wine. So now I always use stock. I don't use broth. I think it's got a deeper, richer flavor. Stock is cooked with all the vegetables. Broth is just the juices from the meat. And lastly, we're going to add our aromatics in. I'm going to throw in a couple of bay leaves. I don't have any fresh, but dried is just as good. I'm going to throw in a couple of sprigs of rosemary. Some people like to tie them up in a neat little bundle. I don't know who's got time for that. So I've got some rosemary and thyme in there. Cut 1 whole bulb of garlic in half, maybe. There we go. And nestle this whole thing down inside there. Again, it doesn't matter if you left the peel on because that's all going to get strained out in the end. Alrighty, I don't have an oven-safe lid for this pan, so I just covered it with aluminum foil, made sure that it's nice and tightly sealed. Yeah, I would love it if I had one of those really fancy Le Creuset pans, so if somebody wants to buy me one of those, that would be awesome, or maybe a sponsorship. This again is going to go in the oven now for about 3 hours. I have a feeling that I might end up running out of propane between now and then, one of the hazards of RV living. So I'm going to check this a couple of times. I would hate to get 3 hours down the road and find out that my oven's turned off 2 hours ago. So I'll check it a couple times, make sure that it's still on and I don't need to go and switch the propane tank. But I'll see you back in 3 hours. Hey, welcome back. I gotta tell you, it smells so good in here. Those short ribs have been in the oven braising for about 2 hours now. So I'm gonna start working on the rest of my dinner. I'm gonna make some creamy mashed potatoes to go with this. A lot of times you'll see Yukon Golds paired with short ribs, but I didn't have any of those. So I'm gonna peel up some russets. I'm gonna get them in some boiling water to cook, and I'll be right back. I'm going to start out by cutting these into quarters. They're all about the same size, so that makes it nice. Pieces about that size. I'm going to add them to cold water to start with. That way they all cook at an even temperature for the same amount of time. All right, I'm also going to do some broccolini, which is baby broccoli. And I think since the oven is tied up, I'm just going to saute it on my cast iron griddle on top of the stove. So I'm gonna just get rid of most of the stems here. I'm gonna wash this up and season these tops and saute them on the stove top. All right, so for this broccolini, I washed it and dried it really well. I pulled off all these little leaves. Now I'm going to just give it a drizzle with olive oil and then season it with some salt and pepper. And just saute this off on the oven. Okay, my potatoes are done, so I'm going to drain them. I've added about 4 tablespoons of butter and maybe a 1/4 cup of heavy cream. Gonna mash these up quite a bit, but then I'm gonna put them back through the strainer because, like I said, I want these to be really creamy. That would have been much easier if I had a potato ricer, but when you live in a scaled down lifestyle, you don't have room for all those fancy gadgets, so you make do with what you have. But those look nice and creamy, just like I wanted. So I'm going to season those up now with some just salt and pepper. All right, it's time to get these out of the oven. now for the big reveal. Oh, look at those. That is fall off the bone goodness right there. Look at that. Okay, we're gonna strain this sauce, au jus, and eat. Okay. There's one of the bones. I'm gonna start by adding 2 tablespoons of butter and melting that. And then I'll add an equal amount of flour to the fat. 2 tablespoons of flour. And I'm gonna whisk that down and cook that flour to get the raw flour taste out of it. And then I'll add these drippings in. I'm just gonna add this in slowly, a little bit at a time. Make sure that it stays nice and creamy. No lumps. And that looks delicious. Okay, let's plate this up so we can eat. We're gonna start with a nice amount of those beautiful creamy mashed potatoes. And then we've got one of our ribs here. I'm just going to slide this bone right out of there, just like that. And set that right on top. Oh, doesn't that look delicious? Next comes some of this beautiful gravy. Maybe a little more. And we're gonna finish it off with some of this baby broccoli on the side. Holy moly, does that look good? Fork tender, y'all. Okay. Oh boy. Thanks for watching.